Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 388. Today is Saturday, October 23rd, 2021, and I'm glad you could join me today. There's a lot of 20s in there. Started to feel a little suspicious. You're like, what's my hair? Not what my hair's doing. Whatever. I opted for the high ponytail, so for extra fun and silliness. And then I was also laughing at myself because I have finished a hat, so I'm going to muss up my hair anyway. So I don't know why I was like, oh, this ponytail looks a little messy. What should we do this ponytail? And then I maybe should put earrings in because it has been a little while. I'm afraid it might have been a little bit too long. But oh well, whatever. Like, I think part of this just has to do with what would it be? You end up sort of settling into a new routine when you move into a place, and what would it be? Or you end up developing new habits because of how you needed to store things. So my jewelry definitely has no place on the bathroom counter, so I do not reach for it as often. Maybe similarly, there's just not a lot of storage in the bathroom to begin with, so there's probably some sort of contentious what actually gets to stay sort of question. Whatever. So what would it be? You end up spending many years accumulating things, and then you have a change in situation and you're like, oh yeah, no, that was a little excessive, wasn't it? So even though my jewelry is pretty compact, it's just not out for me to see. So, and I can't anticipate that changing unless I wrote a beat. Like, the goal is at some point to renovate the downstairs. This may turn into complete scope creep and also involve renovating the upstairs of this place. But would it be? It's not the case where we feel comfortable bringing people in and even get. Well, I don't know. I have a suspicion that if we get the ball rolling, it will still be many months before we can even begin doing something. So, what would it be? And I guess it is the secret hope that many months from now, things will be better pandemic-wise, but who knows? It may be the case where we just wait till we feel very safe. But in the meantime, we have to deal with bathrooms that were renovated with an eye towards design instead of functionality. Yeah, they decided to make it pretty. They did not decide to make it useful. And when it comes to bathrooms, I don't think I care if they're pretty. You might be able to argue that I just care about if it's useful the whole time. Oh, well, that's the engineer in me speaking. So the Dear Sweet Lovable one is off at the hardware store buying a bottle of goop so that the water on the outside does not make it to the inside. We've had quite a lot of rain this week, like probably the most rain that we have seen since moving in, and it turns out that the leak in the ceiling is conveniently located right over the toilet. I don't know if that was a consideration. A consideration in toilet placement. I think it's just always been there. So hopefully we'll be able to get that rectified before the rain starts again. It's looking a little ominous right now. So what we have going on here, oh, isn't that cool how you get, sorry, how you get like a sort of a diamond within there. So I finished my fractal handspun tense field. I was correct. This pattern does look super cute with a shorter color repeat handspun. Would it be? And right now I have it sort of in a little bit more of like a slouchy mode. I might not have needed to have made as deep a brim on this one. Because if it would it be? Because it ends up covering up some of the blue. You know how I feel about that. Very negative. But what's also cool about it is that apparently, based on Midnight last night, this was concluded to be sort of the cutest direction. I think it's really fun that you can whatever you just throw on this hat and there's something different to look at every single way you go around. So this is lace weight 3-ply that I knit on US ones at a fairly loose gauge for lace weight, but a horrifying number of stitches for a hat. And this is a Martina Ben pattern, and the only modification I did was that I did not start doing the crown decreases. I worked it in the round for a while in Carter, basically following an increase and decrease pattern such that the circumference remained the same. And what I have remaining is some of the yellowest parts of the yarn. So this adds fun spice. This was probably the bluest part of the skein. I pretty much made it at the very tippy top. No, I didn't need to take it off. At the very tippy top, I did eventually get into some pretty yellow sections. So this section here is a part of sort of the triangle, and then you knit a series of short row rectangles to finish it off. It's really cute. I might knit one more out of this. I haven't weighed it to figure out how much I have left over. I might make another slightly smaller hat with the remainder. I haven't decided, or would it be maybe based on how much yarn I have left over, I'll compare it to this other smaller one I made. There's whatever. So this one is somewhat smaller, so I may. It's pretty festive too as well. I don't know. See, the handspun's doing all the work here. In this case, I striped it the whole time. So I might make another one like this, but I might also figure out if I can make another one, but holding the yarn doubled, so it's more of a fingering weight, and I don't need to net it on once. Whatever. So I'll have to figure out what's going on. Well, actually, I brought my scale in. We can find out. We can discover what's going on. So, what would it be? So I started off with like 89 grams, which makes it even more horrifying than I managed to get, that I managed to get as much as I did. So this is saying I have 30.22 left, and I don't know if I can fold this up small enough so that it will just lay nicely on the scale. Maybe I can. Yeah, so that's consistent. So that's saying 58.21. So I can make a hat that's what would it be that size, and then we'll compare this to this guy. This is a fingering weight one. Yeah, so it's entirely plausible that I could knit with this held doubled. And what that would mean, I don't know. That could be interesting. And maybe knit it on 2s or 3s or something like that. I know I do like the nice do like the tighter gauge on this one, so I might swap it on once anyways. But yeah, no, so I'll figure something out. So that's more like a 16-inch diameter. This guy is a 20-inch diameter. I probably could have gone away with 18. Like, what would it be? Like, I could have had some more negative E's in this hat, and it would have been fine. But I didn't know that at the time. The one where I just kept the gradient in sequence, I knit on 3s for like finger weight yarn, but that seemed a little loosey-goosey. I'm not displeased with the hat, it's just a little That one's also a 20-inch hat as well, so I might have been able to get away with a little bit more negative E's. Whatever, see, this newfound knit hats all the time thing, it continues, and then you're like, go back. I don't know why I care, it's not like I own hairspray. Hairspray might fix that problem. So, glad to see the end of it. Probably will knit one more. I might have to sit down and maybe do a little bit of scaling and be like, okay, what size hat can I get out of this remaining yarn and call it good. But it could be fun and festive for it to be, I'm guessing it'll be fun and festive for it to be doubled. Because I think I've made, or what would it be? It was sort of the case where it was a personal curiosity about how would a fractal spun yarn look in this hat. Be like, it looks good. I was like, how would a fractal spun hat look if it was all doubled? Probably still be good. We'll just laugh slightly just about how freaking yellow the rest of it is. So, 30 grams, so about I have an ounce left. It took me roughly an ounce, or roughly 2 ounces to knit that hat. That doesn't seem too far off base in the grand scheme of things, so that's solid. But yeah, I don't know whether or not I will end up immediately casting on or something. Well, seeing as I did this live on the podcast, I'm gonna have to redo I'm gonna have to redo everything because I didn't write it down. And what it be, it gives me joy to have a well quantified project page on Ravelry. It feels like I haven't been super diligent about that. I don't know. Or would it be the case where I'm much more diligent about it in the stash dash period, and then it can be a little bit more lax in the not stash dash period. Also, would it just be the case where, like, it feels a little bit like I have a little bit less evening time lately, but then plenty of knitting time when I attend meetings. So, whatever. I'm just gonna have to figure out what that looks like and what ends up making sense. But it was a very, very nice hat to work on during meetings and that sort of thing. At some point, I don't know. It's like a torn thing where it's like, yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of comfort in just knitting some freaking garter stitch. And I'm not entirely sure why I'm not feeling the need for a challenge right now. I know there could be lots of reasons for that, but whatever. Life continues on. So at some point I'll change my mind and it'll be good. So what to talk about next? I think we're gonna go for the socks. I was like hiding knitting. See, I've become a master. It's like, what is the pandemic taught you? How to knit subtly off screen. I'm not sure whether or not I should have learned that skill. Alright, so we're pretty, I don't know, maybe I'll actually need to put like a little progress keeper on this bad boy, but ooh, it looks so good. See, this is why I need to record earlier in the afternoon, because the light is so forgiving at this time. It really is the best time to record, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. Or would be, it's also the best time to go do things in the world. So, this is the skew pattern. It is a Lana Holden pattern. I am knitting it out of my Three Waters Farm BFL in the Color Music colorway. It is the craziest yarn. See, look how crazy. It's just crazy. So this yarn is very wild. I'm actually, I think, getting into a bit of a more orangey section, which is fun. I'm really enjoying sort of the warm tops, or the warm pops and the cool base. So that's been enjoyable for sure. But it hasn't ended up getting a ton of love this week, mostly because I just really wanted to finish the hat, which is amusing that I'm now contemplating casting on another one to use up the remaining yarn. Actually thinking about it, there might be a fun yarn to pair with it. So I'll have to think about that one. I'm not sure which way I break on that question, but it is super kitteny soft. The other one that I was thinking of is, what would it be? It is less kitteny. I don't even know what I would see, or what would it be? Part of the problem is that, what would it be? Like, some yellow, certainly good. All yellow, that might be a little excessive, so I shouldn't smush my yellows together. So, or would it be, the blue does look great with yellow, so that's why I have some in my life. Also orange. So this is me bringing in some of these warm, bright colors into my life, I suppose. So I am not knitting these socks at my usual gauge, partially because I don't think it would feel good. It's definitely a little bit of effort to knit this at an 8 stitch per inch gauge. So forcing it to be 9 would not be any better at all. The other thing, which we've gone a little bit further here, is you're like, the section that I'm in at the moment is overspun. And so what I'm doing here is I'm taking my fingernail and basically forcing the twist out of it in some places. And so by forcing the twist out and making it spin out the other end, I'm sort of gently but inefficiently that might be the episode title. Gently but inefficiently unspinning it so that it's at closer to the right twist. Because what would it be? It'd be the case I didn't read the instructions before I started applying this. I was supposed to, or would it be? This is a valid way to make an opposing ply yarn. But it certainly made for crazy yarn. It was definitely very hard to figure out if I put the right amount of twist in. So when I'm in a crunchy section, then it just makes sense to sit down and let it run out. And I was just letting it like twirl for a little while, but if you use your finger, like you can pull the twist down, which is sort of cool. So, what would it be? So or would it be? really think the sock is turning out gorgeous. There's definitely a period of time in which I thought I had ruined the fiber by doing this, but I'm really happy with how it's looking. I'm definitely happy with how it feels when I run the twist out of it. So that's good. It probably plumps it up a little bit and probably also gains me some yardage as well. So if you over twist, you get hit twice. You basically take up some of the length of the yarn as twist, and then it also becomes a little bit hard as well. So the softest, fluffiest hand spun is going to both be a bigger around and softer, and might even have more yardage on it. Or would it be? So you're just sort of taking that energy and redirecting it in a productive way. So that is the story there. I maybe should measure on a semi-regular basis. Maybe I need to take some locking stitch markers and just start marking out my inches so that I know when to start the heel. Because I am knitting this at an 8 stitch per inch gauge, this means I can follow the pattern as written. I think when I knit this pattern last, I did 84 stitches at 9 stitches per inch. But now with 8 stitches per inch, I can do it as written with the 72. And why is it 72? Because it's on the bias. So you have some square root of 2 nonsense going there. So, or would it be, or the hypotenuse is square root of 2. The width of it is going to be, or the width is 1, and then the hypotenuse is square root of 2. If that, whatever. Triangles, geometry. This pattern was written by a math major. I definitely feel kindred to the designers who are in the quantitative ends of things. So there is that. So the scientist and mathematician and engineer designers do make me happy. But yeah, no, so it's coming along. I highly doubt I will be done before the end of October. I should post more pictures of this. Would it be? So one nice thing working at, or would it be? I assembled my desk. I'm now working in my bedroom because I needed a door that closed. And that does result in fairly pretty pictures because I don't know, the white background is nice. It would it be like I probably have to clean the coffee and tea stains off of it more frequently, but it works out. And there are definitely some times where I'm sitting at my desk and it's just like, you know what? Knitting a couple of stitches while I figure out what it is that I really want to do is probably a good thing. So, man, I'm really liking this like little, I don't know, see. And this is the fun of knitting hand spun socks. So right now I'm in this section where it is like pink, purple, and orange, and it's like, ooh, yeah, no, I definitely like how you're coming together. I'm liking how this is looking. So there's just like the small joy in every color change that you end up getting with this. That is fun. It is good. So that's part of what's bringing me joy today. And would it be? At some point, I suppose it will be more annoying to take out twist in this way. I don't know if you can even see what ends up happening as it runs through. Like, you can definitely see that it's spinning faster. So the nice thing is that the center pull ball ends up being sort of the thing that holds holds the twist from the rest of the skein back a little bit. So I've been using that because there could just be like an utter exercise in futility there. Was the right answer going through and taking out some of the twists in the wheel? Probably. Would it have been a better use of my time? Probably. But it's okay. Like, whatever. This is an experiment. In the spirit of discovery, I'm figuring out if I want to spin yarn of this type again. And it's quite possible that I will, because, or would it be, so the opposing ply sock yarn that I did before, the sock is holding up incredibly well. So I'm inclined to believe that the same will happen with this guy. And like, what would it be? So it'd be the case where like, hey, this might be the better way to make sock yarn in this situation. Now, in contrast to that, or would it be, because I'm talking about like 3-ply lace weight that I've made in the past year, like maybe it is the case where what I really need to be doing is doing 4-ply. And so that's actually something I haven't spun for yet, which might be a fun project. That might actually be a good idea, is do a traditional 4-ply sock yarn. Some fiber from my stash like immediately leaps to mind. I don't know, there's actually probably a couple of things of fiber that would be good for that purpose as well. So I have a couple of cables that I still need to knit up. This is the last of the opposing ply yarn. But I don't see any reason why I wouldn't try it again, because it seems to be much hardier than my 3-ply and chain ply equivalents. And I'm certainly capable of spinning that fine. And I know that it is enjoyable because of sort of the colors that you end up getting. This is enjoyable because of the colors you end up creating with hand spun that just aren't possible with dyed commercial yarn or whatever. So there's that. Somewhere in there is the bag that I had this project in. That's on the ground. So, or would it be? That appears to be a missing thing in my, or whatever, so that appears to be a missing thing in my collection of sock yarn experiments. Not that I really need socks right now, I have plenty. Maybe we could also argue that I don't need sweaters or shawls. Are we at that stage of knitter? Are we at late stage knitter where I just need to find people to give stuff to and make stuff for, because I have no needs. Who knows? But aside from the need to continue to do it right. Oh well. So what would it be? The third part of this hand-spun triple feature today is the sweater that I cast, or what would it be now? The sweater that I'm swatching for right now. So I think a side effect of seeing pictures of Rhinebeck on Instagram was that it reminded me that I have a fleece that I bought at Rhinebeck that I have not yet done stuff with, and I have been sampling for a certain type of project. So I've done 2 pretty big size skeins of yarn at this point, implementing the plan that I want to do on the drum carder for my Romney lamb fleece. And what I want to make sure of is that, or what I want to verify is that these samples that I'm making are actually working the way I think they're supposed to, which involved actually knitting something with them. So this is another one that I ended up spinning this year. This is, I don't know, it is my merino alpaca Polworth silk that I ended up creating, or would it be that I ended up creating layered bats, with the thought process being that you can start to combine colors in a way where you get depth and dimension in your yarn without getting stripes. So you get that hand spun look because every stitch is a different color, but there isn't necessarily super long color runs because your yarn is constructed in like a stack. So every draft has every color. It may be in different proportions. And the fact that it's in different proportions is what sort of makes it fun. So this is a 2-ply fingering weight that is purple with hints of orange in it. And there's definitely depth and dimension in the colors. You can especially see in here that there is sort of variation in it, but it's not as obviously stripey as hand spun normally is. And the stripes that you're actually seeing are actually a knit texture stitch. And so what I'm working on right now is, so I pulled out the recommended needle size and started knitting a swatch. And now I've dropped some needle sizes and I am working in the same pattern with the same number of stitches and seeing what I feel about it. So this is an Elizabeth Daughtry pattern called Donner. It was published in 2020. The special pattern is called the Crest Stitch, and I just can't stop thinking about cannibalism. Be like, did you intend for this connection to be made? But there's very little exposition sort of in the text of the pattern about why it was that Elizabeth had decided to name it that. So it is a drop shoulder design with tight sleeves, so very similar, say for example, to what you see with like the Weekender and Boxy. And because I really like how those sweaters turned out, I was like, hey, I know I like this shape and construction, so what would it be? That should work. And after consultation with various groups, what would it be? It was just sort of trying to figure out what would end up working very well. And so the advice that I decided to take was like, hand spun is normally stripy, and this pattern would look pretty good if it turns out that it actually is stripy. But it's plain enough that if the yarn is working the way I intended, you'll still end up getting sort of that look because of the texture pattern on it. And the texture pattern doesn't, or would it be, I think it's like a 3-row out of 8 sort of thing, and one of those rows is actually exceedingly easy. So it's giving some interest to the knitting of it because you have a certain cadence before you need to do things, but it's still a lot of pretty easy knitting in the grand scheme of things. And I have wanted to knit an Elizabeth Daughtry pattern. I don't know. She's better known for her top-down set-in sleeve patterns, and this one is not. It's also, what I also found very interesting about it was, so the suggested ease is 4 to 6 inches, but then it says that like the model is wearing it with 9. So I was like, dude, why do you have all your beauty shots with 9 inches when you're saying it should be something else? But whatever. So I knit the swatch on 4s. I was on gauge before washing. I'm not sure how the gauge will change with washing. So as a hedge, I'm also knitting them on my 3mm, my US 2.5s. What would it be? The other thing is the pattern was designed for linen. So while I have this, or what would it be? Well, a pretty significant portion of this fiber is actually super drapey because the alpaca is super drapey, the silk is super drapey, but there's merino and Woolworth too. So what would it be? I think there's some notes about the pattern that are maybe more cautionary because linen doesn't want to stick to itself. So So I'm gonna try it knitting it at the same, or would it be using the same needles that I ended up using for the boxy. Would it be? I know that I've managed to get nice drapey fabric with that, and I'm perfectly fine with knitting a larger size to make that work. And probably what's going to end up happening is I'll knit the top, I'll get the sleeves on. They actually call for 3/4 sleeves, which should be fine. Knit the sleeves, and then the rest of the yarn can go into the body. And I think this ends up being like a pretty good pattern for using that all up. And then it'll be the case where I can also do, like, when I do the sleeves, I can also hit up the neck treatment as well. So then it'll just literally be like you can use as much yarn as you want. So that's a good thing for like a hand spun skein. And how I ended up looking for patterns was putting in my weight of yarn, putting in how much yardage I had, though that can lead you astray. There needs to be like one more feature, which is also needs to be like the size as well, but obviously that is a little bit strange because what would it be? The size may not be as good an indicator because it isn't like there's necessarily a universal system of size, and then it'll be the case where sometimes you'll select a different size depending on what's going on. Whatever. But because one of the ones that ended up coming up was the long line cardigan, and so it'd be the case where it's like, yes, that is 1,500 yards, but that is 1,500 yards for the smallest size. So, and the long line cardigan is a Holy Locatelli pattern. But it was the case where I went through, pulled up that, got a bunch of designs in front of me, and then from there it was the case of like looking and seeing like what it is that was interested in me. So it'd be the case where I have recently finished knitting a contiguous sleeve tee. So I was like, oh, like let's continue trying to knit the contiguous sweater because I do like that more set-in style. And contiguous is a way of knitting set-in sleeve, knitting the set-in sleeve shape without breaking the yarn, so you're not working front and back in that situation. And or it'd be the case like, okay, I'm okay with drop shoulders, I'm okay with saddle shoulder. I don't know whether or not I've actually properly knit like a saddle shoulder thing, but it'd be the case of like, if it's a raglan, nah. Would it be my crayon etching sweater is a raglan, and be like, you know what? I can do better. I can do better than a raglan for myself. Though I guess I'm wearing a raglan tee or raglan-y sort of tee today. Whatever. No, whatever. This was constructed by sewing, not by knitting, so. It actually is a little bit mysterious when you look at it because there's actually no body seams at all. So it's like they made like a body tube and then cut out triangles and the sleeves are sewn in. But that seems to, the sleeve and collar are the only places where there's actually seams on this t-shirt. It's so weird. Whatever. It seems like it would be more of a pain to make. But yeah, so it'd be the case where it's like, no raglans, because I was looking at some of the Jessie made designs and I'm like, you know what? Or one of them was like the cozy classic raglan light. And like, you know what? I don't need to do that. What would it be? Another one that ended up coming up was Revival. And I think I am gonna end up making that, and I probably will end up making it out of handspun, and that might end up being yet another trial at this sort of thing. Not because, or would it be the case where, like, I like the idea of having sort of this more dimensional, subtle yarn in a pretty plain sweater. I have tentatively tagged my red dart yarn of doom for the long line. I had been thinking about knitting a poncho, but maybe I need to accept the fact that I just like the idea of ponchos. I don't know that or whatever. The concept of poncho is very attractive, but maybe I do not need a poncho. Or a crazy poncho with red bleeding yarn out of handspun. Like, yeah, probably not a good choice. Oh, I was supposed to not purl this row. Oopsies. Another one or whatever, and then there were two that were a fairly similar sort of thing. So there was Poet, which is that drop shoulder shape, but then had like a very cool texture lace pattern on it. And then another one was, ooh, I think I ended up closing out that tab, but it is in my queue. I still have a lot of we shall go to the queue. Because I ended up deciding just to queue the whole lot of them. It was like, I don't know what I want to make. Because that is the big problem with me, is that when it comes to sweaters, okay, so the pattern, or what have you, one of the dark horse entries was the Yorinoki, which is by Ririko. So that's a Japanese designer. That is really not the right tab. So that one is a yoke, but had a sort of a similar sort of flowery texture lace pattern to it, and bizarrely Japanese designer using Volasa. Whatever. And maybe that'll be the case where I decide to do. That might actually be the case where I decide. I don't know. I was thinking about holding one my siddle, and I'm like, then I won't have enough yarn. I don't know what I'm thinking, but whatever. It calls for like 100% or 20 or something like that. And I don't have any explicit sweater quantities of that in the stash. But yeah, no, so it'd be the case where Poet was like a texture lace pattern, with the drop shoulder shape, and then your enoki was that texture lace pattern, but with a yoke shape. And like, I do truly deeply love a yoke, love knitting them, love that I know how to modify them in order to make them fit very well on my body. Would it be? Yeah, no, I do believe that it is the most flexible sweater construction to deal with, or would it be to deal with shape and making it fit you really well. So, or would it be, and just pretty straightforward to calculate in the whole bit. So, I do love a yoke. I might throw a yoke on because now that the sun isn't shining, it's getting a little bit chilly. As you do. But yeah, so this pattern is reasonably fun to knit. It's sort of that right amount of stuff. When I was looking at it, it seemed a little plain, but this is engaging enough for me. Drop shoulder construction. Interesting to see maybe what Elizabeth Daughtry's changes are to it. I know, or what do we? There are a couple of design things that she has, so it'll be interesting to work through that. I think the yarn is turning out really pretty in it. I have 10 ounces of it, 1,500 yards, so should be pretty good yardage wise for that. And the pattern is constructed in a way that it's going to be really easy to use it all too. So that's also festive. The yarn is very soft. I'm like, I had like an, am I having a reaction to alpaca freak out? This is partially due because Amy of Stock and Knit Zombies found out that her and alpaca are not friends, so this is my own paranoia, but I think it should work. And I already have an alpaca sweater, and it's fine. Maybe when I'm really cold, I should put it on. Why did I knit an alpaca? Whatever. That was my first sweater. My first sweater was an alpaca sweater, guys. A purple. So purple and alpaca is special, apparently. Or when you look very closely at it, you can see the red, yellow, and blue, and like individual fibers are coming up that way, but then their overall effect is purple. I just don't get that with wool. I know, or you just don't get that with wool that has been dyed after spun. You might be able to get that effect with wool that has been dyed then spun. And would it be? Like, I think that's most of what I'm trying to achieve here. But I think I've succeeded in making not stripy, but dimensional, colorful yarn. See, this is blown out sort of blue, but you can see there's a lot of color in here, a lot of changing that you're just not going to get with that. I don't know if this is like something to do with the texture, but the texture ends up looking maybe a little bit highlighting sort of that warmer orange and red tone for some reason. Who knows? So I probably need to actually give this yarn like a proper name. I don't recall what I called it. Or would it be, or if it's my Twilight Sunset, because it's definitely got some of those colors going on in it. And it's quite possible that this is going to end up, I don't think it's going to be pilly. I think it might end up getting like a little bit shaggy and soft because of the alpaca, if that makes sense. Or would it be the case where, yeah, it seems to be, or would it be, would it be? It's probably maybe a little softer spun than what I would like for a sweater, but because it is a drop shoulder construction, that's gonna take a lot of this off of it, or would it be because it'll be more a chicken wing than jogger. So I think it will be fine. And it may be the case where even just looking at this swatch, it says, yes, this plan is a go. I can dye my Romney in a way, or that I can dye my Romney and put together the proportions in order to create a dimensional, what would it be, this dimensional yarn, and still have like a cohesive looking sweater at the end. So, and that would be the case where it would be, my vision is blue, obviously, white, and then small amounts of yellow and orange to evoke like a beautiful sunny day. That's what I want. And then what's going to end up happening is when all of that ends up being spun together, or would it be, because things are still, or would it be, you end up, like, with, like, the fractal spun yarn, it was definitely the case where yellow and blue would form green. I don't think that's necessarily going to be a bad thing in the grand scheme of things. And that, having that, or would it be, but you really just don't need a lot in order to create that. And then making layered bats where I have, basically layers of the 4 colors that I want to combine, and then making a sample skein, I suppose. So this involves making dye stock, probably doing a decent amount of planning with respect to actually getting the blue, because I have the CMYK ones, so I actually need to construct a blue with that, so that's going to take a little bit of time. Whatever. This is gonna be a pretty big project, because it also involves me learning how to, or whatever, involves me learning how to make those sort of things. So the yellow should be easy. The orange will take some testing, the blue will take some testing, and the white will just be what it is, right? I already got white. And then, or would it be, and then it'll be the case where, based on proportions, right, figure out like how far I want to go. So, or would it be like, because adding white will make it more of a pastel color, and we know I like my deep blues, so it may be the case where I don't end up having a lot of white in it. I don't know. Just depends on where I'm at. So it should be fine. And then I think the other thing is that it'll probably end up being a thicker weight sweater, because the Romney has a very loose crimp to it. So what would it be if you have a really tight crimp? It's fine to spin it fine and to have a lot of twist in it. But if it has a loose crimp, in order to keep everything feeling really nice, you do have to make it thicker to accommodate for that, because if you need twist to hold it together to keep it fine, that means you have to spin thicker so that it holds together with less twist. I don't know. It's like a chicken and an egg thing, right? It's like, we get less twist, so we get to be thicker. If you spin thick yarn with lots of twist, that doesn't feel good. So, would it be? So I'm excited with how things are going. What would it be? We'll see whether or not I impulsively cast on the hat before I do the sweat, before I actually finish the swatch for the sweater. That's a distinct possibility, I suppose. I'm guessing these are going to be my last Fluff the Stuff projects. So that ends November 30th. I will have a lot of time. I got a decent portion. I got a decent portion of November off, so that's good. I don't know, whatever. And then I don't think I did anything in spinning this week, so I have not yet put anything on the wheel. So that is where we left off last week with me spinning. So that continues on. I'm not too worried about it either. Because I'm knitting with my hand spun to make room for more hand spun in the future. It's probably a good thing. And now that we'll have to figure out which way I end up breaking, where like in terms of if I decide to go after more hand spun sweaters, because that debulks the stash really nicely, versus going back and deciding to go for like the DK sweater, because I know that was something that I was talking about quite a bit earlier, was like, can't wait to knit a DK sweater when I'm doing fingering. But really cozy fingering, so that's gonna be way more cozy than it's gonna be, or whatever. This purple Twilight yarn is very cozy. It is the opposite of the pattern before. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's looking poor right now in terms of me actually knitting the skirm ring for the Skein-Deer garment along. Whatever. I probably do need to test the waters again with cables. There are a couple of cable sweaters that I want to make, which I'm sure will be great. Maybe I need to make sure that they're knit flat. Because I don't know about you guys, but I have come to appreciate that cables are so much easier knit flat than they are knitted around. So, would it be? And I don't mind seaming that much. I'm okay with seaming. So, I'm less okay with getting, like, I'm less good about making sure everything is exactly the right size and shape. That's a failing of mine. But it'll be okay. And now the rain is starting, and the Deersley level 1 is not returned from his quest to get the goop to plug the holes, so that might be exciting, but whatever. We'll just deal with it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's it. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.